Hello fans from the Wheelchair Gang, Tharries here, and welcome back to a very important Doctor Who Series 13 news update video. Now, in case you didn't see, last night I uploaded a video looking at the new images released for Doctor Who Series 13, as well as confirmation of the new time slot, at least for episode 1 being 6:20, which was earlier than we expected because people were speculating 8:30. But since then, we've had a few new articles drop basically discussing more details about the series, and I thought we'd go over that today. But before we get into it, if you could do me a teeny tiny little favour and click that subscribe button, I would be ever so much appreciative. We are trying to get to 10k by the end of the year, and if we could get there, I would absolutely love you forever. Also, quick shout outs to Jason Peace, Debs Iona, and Simon Ashley for being our first 3 members. If you want to become a member, feel free to do so. It really helps out. You get exclusive posts, shoutouts in every video, and even your own badge and custom emojis to use during live streams. So this first article is called Doctor Who Reveals More Series 13 Cast, including another Line of Duty star. Rochdale Sandal, Craig Ells and others are joining the series, but who could they be playing? This is by Hugh Fullerton. Last week, Doctor Who Series 13 unveiled a long list of well-known guest stars, with familiar faces from Line of Duty, The In-Betweeners, Pirates of the Caribbean and many other notable TV shows and films set to join Jodie Whittaker and her team for the 6-part adventure. But clearly the cast wasn't stacked enough, because the BBC have now announced even more actors joining Doctor Who Flux, on top of the starry bunch already unveiled. The newly regenerated actors are Deep Breath, Rochdale Sandal, Line of Duty, Sam Spurrell, The North Water, Craig Ells, Ripper Street and Coronation Street, Steve Oram, The End of the Effing World, Nadia Albina, The One, Jonathan Watson, Two Doors Down, Sue Jenkins, Brookside Coronation Street, and Paul Broughton, Clink Brookside. How's that for a list? Series showrunner Chris Chibnall told the press. It's really great, and then we've got John Bishop playing Dan and Jacob Anderson playing Vinda. There are some really fantastic actors. You get to see a bit more of them than you normally would in just a single episode. It's all one story. There's 6 episodes, or chapters, as they are going to be labelled, he continued. Now I'm a little bit dubious towards the idea of Series 13 not really having episode titles. It's seeming to imply that each episode could be called like Flux Chapter 1, Flux Chapter 2, Flux Chapter 3. And to be honest, just speaking from a content creator perspective, that's going to be a nightmare algorithmically to label your reviews Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4. I can see a lot of reviewers, a lot of YouTubers having to say like the Sontaran episode in the title, or the Weeping Angel episode, or the Dog People episode. So yeah, I'm not really keen on the idea of them being referred to as chapters rather than being given own individual episode titles. I understand why, because it's all one story, but ultimately a story can have titles still for different chapters, so I really hope that there is at least some distinction between each one, and it's not just chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. It changes the way we deal with characters. Characters go across more than one episode, monsters who go across more than one episode. Overall, it's quite a collection of familiar faces, and while we're not yet sure who many of the actors are playing, we do have a few ideas. Notably, none of them appeared in the trailer, unlike the actors announced alongside it. So could it be that these performers, some of whom are slightly less well known, are playing monsters in Series 13 hidden by prosthetics? Certainly one of them could be hidden under the dog-like fur of Carven Easter, or the makeup of a Sontaran, and we can't help but wonder whether Line of Duty Breakout Sandal is playing one of these mysterious aliens, namely the one on the left. However, it could also be that they are simply playing key figures in the series. Craig Ells, for example, already appeared in a very early teaser trailer for Series 13 as the friend and co-worker of John Bishop's new companion, Dan Lewis. So unless he's actually a secret alien in disguise, which would actually be quite cool, what if it turned out everyone Dan knows is actually a monster? It seems like he'll just be a friend to Bishop's important new character. Still, whoever they turn out to be, it's clear that at a reduced episode count for Doctor Who Flux does not mean we'll have any less guest actor action in the new series. That wrap party must have been pretty crowded. So there you go, there's the first piece of information. And interesting stuff, it unveils basically that the episodes are going to be labelled as chapters. I just hope that they have chapter subtitles, because otherwise if they're just called Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, that's going to be a nightmare. But I know for a fact that Paul Broughton, we did a video on everything you know about Series 13 so far ages ago, and he's labelled as Dan's dad, I believe. So I know for a fact that's who he's playing, so that's a little bit of a spoiler for any of you who didn't know. This next article is about Jodie Whittaker departing from Doctor Who, and it's called Doctor Who's Jodie Whittaker on the Next Doctor. The joy of this job is that you hand on your boots. Who's next is the big question at the moment. This is by Joe Julians. It may only feel like yesterday since we had the big Wimbledon reveal of Jodie Whittaker as the next star of Doctor Who, but her tenure is coming to a close and soon somebody else will be manning the TARDIS controls. Speaking to the press, including RadioTimes.com, Whittaker addressed her impending exit from the BBC sci-fi series and what she thinks her replacement will be in for. On how it feels to leave the role of the Doctor, she said, "We've been very present in it, but you have to honour the show, and honour everything." Me and Chris Chibnall, showrunner, there was the thing of like, we want to do 3 seasons, but no one holds you to that. So there was always conversations about how long to stay. It was always fluid. But when you commit to a decision, you know I can't imagine being written like, this Doctor is Chris's Doctor. For me, it's right to leave now. But if everyone comes up to you forever, going, I'm a Doctor Who fan, then that's an absolute joy, because it's been such a pleasure. Whittaker added though that she'll be nonetheless filled with a lot of grief having left the series. Even thinking about it makes me upset, she said. But this show needs new energy. The Doctor, the joy of this part is that you hand on your boots. And I don't know who, but whoever it is, what a thing to be able to do. You're going to have a right time. And that's basically all the new information we can glean from this article here. I do find it really interesting that Jodie has no idea who her successor is. I think that's a really interesting thing, at least from what we're being told anyway. But this really does feel like the end of an era is coming now. Jodie's basically saying, I hope whoever's next has a great time. This feels like basically them saying, yeah, this is it now. Which is quite weird to see because, as I said, I started doing these videos when Jodie started, so having Jodie finish now is kind of like, wow, I've been doing this for a while. Now this is the one that interests me the most. Chris Chibnall says it took longer than expected for him to leave Doctor Who. The baton has been passed back to Russell T Davies. This was once again written by Joe Julians. It will be a change for Doctor Who in the coming months, as Russell T Davies has been named showrunner for Doctor Who's 60th anniversary in 2023 and beyond, replacing current boss Chris Chibnall. Chibnall will exit alongside the 30th Doctor Jodie Whittaker, and while we wait to find out who will be cast as the next Time Lord, Chibnall has been chatting to press, including Radio Times, ahead of Series 13. As you'd expect, the subject of his departure came up, and it turns out that he stuck around for longer than he thought he would. It's taken longer than expected, if we're being honest. I've been throwing batons at people for about a year now, and finally someone picked it up, Chibnall said on the search for his replacement. Now this is really interesting to me and a bit concerning, and I'll continue to get into why, but the long and short of it is, the first thing was I thought that Chibnall had no say in his successor. I thought that was a BBC Studios thing, at least what we were being told. And second of all, I do find it kind of concerning that they really struggled to find a successor. It really adds to that idea that the Doctor Who brand, the Doctor Who franchise, is kind of seen as a poison chalice for anyone who wants to take it over. And the fact that, you know, obviously they've gone back to Russell T Davies, which, don't get me wrong, is a great thing, makes me think, did they struggle to get anyone else? Because don't get me wrong, Russell T Davies is a great short-term fix, but in the long run, I don't know how this is going to affect things going forward. If the RTD era 2 ends and we still have this same problem, it might not be as easy as just getting someone old back. Because, I mean, at that point, the only one you could get back would be Moffat. And let's face it, Moffat isn't as universally beloved as Davies is. So yeah, that doesn't bode great for the future, must be said. We had that conversation right at the start. I hope you can see that the atmosphere is so team-oriented and so positive. It's a proper family atmosphere. This cast and crew are so close. You wouldn't want to do it with other people, because it's just been its own little discrete show. And then the next version will be its own discrete show, just as Peter Capaldi's era was, just as Matt Smith's era was, and just as David Tennant's was. While the cloister bell may be sounding on his time in charge, Chibnall insists he has nothing but fond memories of his time on Doctor Who. You couldn't enjoy it any more than we've enjoyed it. It's been such a laugh and a privilege, he said. And I think we've been deliberately very mindful of being in the moment. Obviously, I've known Russell and Stephen Moffat for a very long time, and part of their advice was just enjoy it while you're doing it, because afterwards you'll really miss it. We've definitely approached it like that. I don't feel any sadness about the end approaching. It's just, we came in, we did what we set out to do, and I feel like there's been such an incredible atmosphere while we've been doing it. So it really feels good, and frankly, I'll get to see my family again, which would be really nice. You know, despite the fact that I'm not a massive fan of Chibnall's work, I will say, I really do wish him the best going forward. You know, he seems like a lovely guy. I'm just not a big fan of his writing, but he doesn't seem like a bad guy or anything. It does concern me, though, that they really struggle to find someone. I think that is Something to worry about for the future once like RTD leaves. And then this final article says Doctor Who, Chris Chibnall promises to blow up the universe in Series 13 Episode 1. The upcoming series is set to feature some of the biggest ever cliffhangers, according to Chris Chibnall. This is by Lauren Morris. The upcoming series of Doctor Who may be Chris Chibnall's last, but he's determined to make the most of it, with the outgoing showrunner promising to blow up the universe in the Series 13 premiere. Speaking to RadioTimes.com and other press at a webinar for the BBC One show, Chibnall said that he knew he'd have to take Doctor Who in a new direction to accommodate complications related to the coronavirus pandemic. It's changed everything really, from start to finish. We knew we had to reinvent and reimagine the show to deal with the kind of production implications of COVID. So there were two ways we could go. We could go lots of little stories set in a room with two people, or we could blow up the universe in episode 1 and then go from there. And we went for the blowing up the universe strategy. He added that Series 13 consists of 6 episodes or chapters, which will tell one story and feature some of the biggest ever cliffhangers. I mean, it's always interesting with Doctor Who. There's always a precedent. There's always been a variation on what you're doing. So it harks back to things that the show has done in the past, when it was more serialized. Even when it started back in 1963, when you had multi-episode serials and things like that. It changes the rhythm of storytelling, it changes the way you tell the stories. It changes the way we deal with characters who go across more than one episode, monsters who go across more than one episode, and it's probably more in line with other TV series that you're watching currently. So it was a big challenge, and then it became a massive creative opportunity. So lots of cliffhangers, I would say, is the big thing, which is embedded into Doctor Who, some of our biggest cliffhangers ever. The upcoming series of Doctor Who is set to be shown at Chris Chibnall's last and Jodie Whittaker's final outing as the Doctor, before Russell T Davies returns to celebrate the show's 60th anniversary. So that's the final article. Obviously, with what Chibnall's been saying there, it's a good chance a lot of it's PR speak. Remember when he was saying that Spyfall was the biggest episode ever? But I will genuinely be interested to see how the new format affects things and what it will lead to with Series 13. But if you did enjoy this video, let me know in the comments below, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you later.